Hey, welcome back to Trek on the Tube. Yes, I filmed this video before I got the new phone. That's why it looks this way. It's a transition period. Come on, bear with me. This is a review and Easter eggs video for yet another Star Trek episode, but not a new one. No. Not from a current show, although we do pretend it is a current show for the sake of these videos. It's a whole thing. Anyway, today we're talking about Star Trek, the original series, more specifically Season 1, Episode 16, the Galileo 7. As usual, first we're going to do my review, my thoughts and opinions, and then we'll talk about the Easter eggs and references, if there are any, and then compare the remastered version to the original version. So for starters, let me just say that this episode was very interesting. It was very unique, because it departed so much from what we've seen and come to expect from this show up until now. Also, this wasn't so much a Captain Kirk-centered episode as it was a Spock one, or even a Chief Engineer Scott story. Not that we didn't see Kirk at all, we did. So let's talk about that first. One of the more annoying elements, dare I say, to the story was the ticking clock, and also the constant nagging and reminding by this guy, the commissioner, that came with it. And I know this was all done to create a certain urgency and justification for the actions taken by Spock at the end of the episode, but I guess I'm not the fan of the "we need to get there now" motivation. And for some reason, I don't know, it feels like the whole medicine thing, getting it on time there, seems a bit overused. I will say though, it's not very often I disagree with Captain Kirk, but here, as annoying and as in your face as the commissioner was, he was kind of right. You're delivering medicine. It's best to get there as fast as possible. And yes, the rendezvous was in 5 days and it was only going to take them 3 days to get there, so technically they had 2 days to spare, but I mean, this is space. Quite literally anything unexpected can happen at any time. Why take the risk? Why risk being late when you can get that life-saving medicine there on time? I mean, it almost felt kind of selfish or even a bit clueless on Captain Kirk's part. But enough about how I feel though. Did these elements serve a purpose within the context of the story, and were they well executed? Yes they were. And that's what counts. The whole point of the ticking clock, as we said earlier, was to get Spock to get to that moment at the end, and it was a great payoff. So now on to the meat of the episode, the plot. The Galileo 7 themselves. What an interesting concept. To have these poor crew members stranded on the surface of some remote and unexplored planet, trapped and both physically assaulted by an indigenous species, as well as dealing with the ordeal mentally. I mean, admittedly, the pacing could have been handled a little better, because near the middle of the episode, things started to slow down a little, but all the bickering and disagreeing and mistakes made by everyone, including Spock himself, ultimately contributed to that great payoff.
I'm frequently appalled by the low regard you Earthmen have for life.
There's also a certain realisticness to it all. Funny enough, I don't think we learn that much more about Spock himself or about the way he reasons, apart from him clearly having an emotional response at the end, and then a second one when he wouldn't admit that he had the first. The Chief Engineer Scott, though, he got quite a bit of screen time, which was nice, and he's truly the hero, considering he basically fixed the shuttle on his own. It was him that we explored more, I feel, just by having him concentrate on the work and getting things done. I mean, that said a lot about the character. When it comes to the planet's inhabitants, I don't have that much to say. They were mostly just there as tools to be used by the writers to make the story advance. So far in this show, we have had more creative and innovative alien cultures, so these guys don't stand out too much. The same could be said about the random officers that died off one after the other. What the story was really about, and what it managed to showcase quite well, is how such a diverse group of individuals reacts to this kind of situation. Everyone deals with things differently, and that was great to see. From a technical standpoint, the episode looked amazing. Like, all of the visuals were stunning, the sets looked amazing, the shuttlecraft interior, the planet itself, I mean the shuttle takeoff and then the shuttle landing, that quasar, the nebula, those visuals were also just as stunning, and the directing itself felt a little more bold than other times, with different and dynamic camera angles. All the performances were great as well. I mean, all around it was a pretty solid episode. I do have some small complaints. The fun and jokes at the end, for example, that banter going on, like Kirk just lost 2 officers and he's laughing. Also, after all this, they finally eventually decide to set off at warp factor 1. Like, warp 1. This ship can go warp factor 5, we've seen that, and they're hauling very important medicine, life-saving medicine, but they decide to leave at warp factor 1. That was kind of odd to me. It kind of lost that sense of urgency. The whole debate about the service, however, that was really interesting. Like, what would you do? Or what do you think? In this situation, are a proper service and burial priorities? On one hand, doing this isn't going to help you get off the planet, and it's going to expose you to the alien threat, but also it's probably a morale booster for the survivors. Or at the very least, it's a way of dealing with the trauma and grief. And I mean, so far out in space, so far away from humanity as a whole, how human are we really if we don't do the things that make us human? Anyway, good episode. Is it the best that this show has to offer? No, not quite, but it's still very, very good. And it's now time to move on to the Easter eggs and references part of the video. Oh no, there's none. I didn't spot anything. So let's talk about the remastered version and how it compares to the original version. The first big change is the CG shuttlecraft. I'm not the biggest fan of it, admittedly, but I guess it does align itself more with the remade planets and the Enterprise of the remastered version. We also get the Nebula completely redone, and a bunch of new camera angles to make the ships seem to be in the vicinity of the anomaly. This shot, for example, gives us the ship, the shuttle, the planet, and the nebula all together, which, I mean, it does make a lot more sense than in the original version. I just don't think it looks very good, though. Even the shuttle landing doesn't work as good in the remastered one, I mean, for me. The fuel burning is better, I feel, more consistent, I guess, color-wise. Overall, though, I'm not a fan of the remastered effects in this episode, and I think it's the first time since the beginning of the series. I mean, what do you guys think? Are you fans of it or not? Of course, everything that isn't redone effects, everything that just enhances the color and augments the quality, that's great. It's very nice to have that. That's it. What do you guys think of the episode? What do you guys think of the remastered version? Like, comment, subscribe, do all of those wonderful things, share around. A big thanks to the channel patrons, and as usual, live long and prosper.